the 80s, we couldn't build catalogs fast enough. I started my career in 1981 in the catalog industry, that is. I had done some direct mail before that and some design and copywriting. But in 1981, I got hired as a marketing consultant, uh, and I learned the catalog business because we had a business of building catalogs for relatively large companies and also doing telemarketing support and that sort of thing. So I built 5 or 6 catalogs in 5 or 6 years from scratch, and they all launched fairly successfully, I would say. And then I went off on my own. And so I had somewhat of a reputation as the catalog guy. If you look at my client list for my career, I think I have over 70 catalog clients along there, maybe more. Um, but I have, quite a few for a guy who's mostly been uh, sort of on my own. Anyway, so I was a catalog guy. I got Blockbuster called when they wanted to start a catalog and said, "We heard you're the catalog guy," that sort of thing. I declined that one, as it happens. I got a call from Windham Hill Records. They said, "You're the catalog guy." I accepted that one, and we made millions almost instantly. And uh, they sold out to BMG, fired everybody I knew. But we made somebody a lot of money. Anyway, so Catalog Age came, and uh, to, I don't know, Tracy or Catalog Age. I didn't work with the Catalog Age people very much, but Tracy said, "Could you build a simulation that would give people a feel of the core elements of running a catalog?" I said, "I don't know. We'll give it a try." And so I'm going to share some of those sort of structural things with you. But let me just give you a little bit of a tour to start with. And um, so here we go. I think this will, oops, that won't turn the page. I have to hit this page down. Okay, it was when I got started building it, I actually went out to Land's End a few times. I called them up and I said, "Would you be interested in this?" And they said, "Sure, yeah, we were always looking for things for training for our employees. And and we'd love to be involved." And so I got out there, and it was really fun because um, one of the best things at the time was I asked about going down to or if they had a particular business book around. I don't remember what it was, and they said, "Oh, we got a little library. Just head down there." And nobody was there, and so then I had to wait for somebody to come and unlock it. But across the room was a meeting, and it was with a vendor, and a brand new vendor, and they were getting into a new category which they've been in successfully ever since, and so they did a good job. And I heard the Land's End people saying, "We're not going to tell you how to make that category of item. You're the people that make it, but we would like you to know that we do stand behind our products, and we really do. We mean it, and so we really want you to make the best product that you can." It was like a household item. And it was refreshing to hear the behind the scenes match the promoted concept, the branding, the positioning, the kind of corporate culture that they promoted was actually not only just with the customers, but the employees bought into it and told the vendors that they better buy into it. And I just have always loved Land's End for that reason, and will always be a fan. And I know there's a lot of other great catalogers. And so I make the claim that the catalogers have basically survived and owned the dot-com revolution. But I think it may be more because in the cataloging culture, we recognize the importance of a long-term relationship. I was talking with another a friend, and we were talking about a seriously big list, and somebody that does social media and has a million plus hotline. But the problem is that they don't rebuy, and the company doesn't. That's not their business model. It's just a one and done kind of a thing. And it's, it's kind of a novelty, so I'm sure that's fine. But it's not the catalog culture. And so we're going to be trying to take that catalog culture and put it into a training tool. That was what we were after. And that's a challenge. And so if you don't have a catalog, if you're on here today and you're thinking, well, I don't have a catalog, I don't even want a catalog. Why would I want my employees, to get involved with this? And the answer is because, I'll get to my screen again. The answer is because there's something right about that concept. There's something right about wanting to establish a sustainable business. When we did it for Catalog Age, we had people from Apple. I don't think we had people then from Land's End, but Appleseed, Thompson Cigar, still friends with those people. Black Box. We did it at Land's End. We did it at Deluxe. We did it at Caldwell. I think we did it at Demco. We had people from Sara Lee, from Cabela's, from Gardner Supply, from Gurney Seed, Hannah Anderson. We did it at Moore. We did it at Illinois State. I got invited to do it over in England, which was a lot of fun, except for my computers all got stolen. And this thing kind of runs on its own little computers. We've resurrected it. I'll show you screen captures in a little while, but it's not a phone app. It's not a Windows app. It's an old DBase app, and we've got it running, so don't worry. But it's not the beauty of it that makes it work and makes it fun. Back to this, so Illinois State, I thought I was going to do it for the kids in business school, and it turned out I was doing it for the faculty, the business faculty, and we had a great time. Dan Richards from Caldwell set us up there, and they had a great time. But a couple of the faculty decided they didn't want to mail the house file. And those of you who are in mail order would know that the house file is like the buyers mostly, and other names that you control. It's a sort of a general term for names that we own, and that's just something that you really want to mail. That's the most important thing you can mail. And so I'm just going to do a sound check. I see that I've got sound, but oh yeah, okay, it's coming. It's not the best. I usually use a lavalier, but when I tested 5 or 6 of them with my laptop, because I'm on my laptop, and none of them worked, so we couldn't do that. But anyway, so we changed the game so that we no longer called it the house file. We call it the buyers, I think, and the inquirers or the requesters or something. And you can see it when we get there. And we automatically mail it the first year so that you can't accidentally leave it out, which they did, and they never recovered. We did it for the DMA. I believe we did it in New Orleans, and it was a big hit. But the thing that probably means the most to me was that we did it for Bob Stone and Martin Bear, who created a direct marketing certification. I think it might still be going. I'm not 100% sure. But we had just a great class, and so they invited me to come, and we had a string of less than stellar presentations in the computer department, mostly from the faculty. The outside presenters, and we had Derek Holder from England, and we had really some really great people. But we had some bad luck in the computer lab. So when Martin heard that my simulation was on computers, he didn't like that. And when he heard that it was going to be several hours because it's fairly intense, he was like, no, you have to get him out of there and go back because everybody's complaining about sitting in the computer lab. Well, I got him out of there a couple times, but after a couple of rounds of the game, no one wanted to leave. They were all so intense. They wanted to win. They wanted to play. They wanted to figure it out. And so we just blew Martin out of the water. I don't think he ever forgave me, but it was the #1 rated session of 3 weeks of intense direct marketing training, and I'm pretty proud of that. That for several years we were the #1 best rated session, and clearly in the inaugural session. So that was pretty great. So when I was at Nemoa in March, I like to go to the CEO breakfast, and they seem to enjoy having me. And the #1 topic, and this has been the case a couple of times, the #1 topic has been, how do we get and keep employees? A lot of the catalog companies, you think Land's End, and you think Dana was talking about how his company is out in this beautiful sort of rural setting. Newskis were there, and they're up in, I don't know where they are, someplace by Shawano, Wisconsin, if you know where that is. It's up there somewhere, an hour or two from Green Bay, right in the sort of center. And so Glenn was there, and a lot of the catalogers. We used to fly a little airplane because Sidney, Nebraska, we'd go out there, and we'd go to Blair, and that was in in Northwest Pennsylvania. And so, you can be wherever you want to be. You don't have to be in a big urban center. And a lot of times there's great reasons to not be in a big urban center. Figgy's data center was, they found that they had a lot of seasonal work in the fall, and they could get, the farmers' wives and stuff who were looking for some Christmas money back when they started out, and they got some really great work ethic, good education, good people. So, but how do you get somebody? Who's grown up in the rush and excitement of urban living or a big college or something like that? How do you get them to come to this quiet, little sleepy area? Well, so I did some research on this, and I found out that a sense of mission is really good, a sense of teamwork, of engagement, of actually investment. One of my friends, Dan Diamond, is actually does training on how to get your employees to feel like they're part of it, the company, not just that they're, sort of paying attention. Engagement is like paying attention. It's not the same as investment. So that's the thing. You want to develop that sort of thing. And so companies have team building exercises. You go to an obstacle course. I did this once, an organization, and we had this big log that was up about 5 or 6 feet in the air, and we had to get everybody over, but nobody could come back, and how to work it. And we had CEOs from some of the biggest companies in the state. You'd recognize the names. Nobody could figure it out. I said, the biggest guys we should help get up onto the log, and then they should help lift the rest of us over, and then they can get over. And sure enough, that worked fine. So, anyway, but that will not teach you marketing. Right? That will not teach you marketing. And so how do you get this team building exercise? Have a picnic or whatever, but how do you teach the new kids? And especially, how do you teach them about the fundamentals? I had a catalog client, and they decided that social media and affiliate marketing was going to be their thing. And it wasn't a bad idea. So they hired 3 young people, paid them about $150,000 a piece, which was more than they were paying me anyway, but I was only there every now and then. And the kids gave them, a $500,000 budget, and they stirred up a lot of dust. They got a couple million in sales. But the company didn't feel like it was getting them the traction that they were used to. So they said, why don't you go meet with these kids? You know something about social media, and you know something about the internet. So see what they're doing. Well, we talked for a while, and they were getting bloggers and stuff signed up to do affiliate messages, banners and such on their blogs. And it was a niche market, so this was not a bad idea. But but the bloggers were using an affiliate network, which got 5%, and they were giving the bloggers 10 to 20%, I think, and then they were encouraging the offers, because the bloggers, I think, had some control of the offer. Somebody else had control of the offer, and they were encouraging them to give like a 20% discount. Well, the problem is you've just given away like 50% of your margin. So I looked at these kids, and I mean, they're in their 20s. To me, they're my kids' age, and I said, I didn't mean it in a depreciatory, derogatory sense, but I said to the kids, "Do you understand cost of goods?" And they said, "What?" And I said, "Well, how do you think you're doing?" And they said, "Well, we're selling a lot more stuff. Our sales increase is a lot more than the cost of our program." Right? And so they were calculating the cost of the ads and the cost of the affiliates, not really counting the cost of the discount, and saying, well, to simplify it, we spent $1 million in advertising and we generated $1 million in sales. And I said, well, that's good. It was more than that even, but I said, we have to pay for the stuff we sell. We ship stuff out, and we make some of that stuff, and it costs us materials and labor and such. And you're not covering that. You're not covering the overhead of the place. You're not covering the cost to you. And they looked at me with a deer in the headlights look, and they really did. And then, to make matters worse, we evaluated the customers. This was back a few years ago, and they had generated the customers in I'm trying to remember what year. This was like 2012, and we looked at how they did. We took all the customers that they generated in 2012, and we looked at how they were doing in 2013. I'll get back on the screen. So we just took the first 6 months of 2013, and we said, okay, take all the new customers. We'll give them credit for all of them, and we'll say, how did the new customers do in the next 6 months? What kind of profitability was it worth? It's not a lifetime value, but it's a quick and dirty ROI, and I recommend it. It's a really great little analysis to evaluate your customer value. And then to compare, we took the customers that we had generated with direct mail in 2008, and we looked at how they had done in the spring of 2009, same time period. And that was one of our worst. 2009 was like the worst 6 months we'd had ever. So it was, we figured, well, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt. And it turned out that the 2009 customers were worth 4 times more per customer than the 2013 ones that have been generated with social media. And I'm not saying you shouldn't use social media. No. I'm saying with this account, with this, but that was without taking into account all the costs of acquisition. That was just raw money. What did they generate after they showed up? My point, you always want to have a point. And I see we got some more people on. My point is that you got to teach the basics. It's great that you got a social media wizard or an SEO wizard or a Google AdWords wizard, and you hired them. That's great. But if they don't understand cost of goods, and they don't understand, acquisition and lifetime value, some of these very, very fundamental numbers, you've got some real issues down the road. It can cost you millions, and it did in this case. Millions of dollars down the drain. Anyway, and finally, you keep people by having fun. And I can tell you, this is fun. This is a riot. This is a riot in the companies. It was some of the most fun I've ever had was doing this session. I've always thought it'd be fun to do it after hours, with some beer and pizza. We've never done that, but I'm open to it. especially if we do it in Wisconsin somewhere. So I'm excited about the idea of doing it in Wisconsin. Let's go back to the slideshow. Um, so here's some of the stuff that people said. For the first time, we understood what the marketing department does. That was a finance guy said that. Another person said it was no company picnic. It forced everyone to help run their catalog. Another one said, much more effective than sitting in a lecture. A positive shared experience. It's not a lecture. It's not even close. We do have a couple of sessions where I talk because, you have to know the rules. You have to kind of understand some of the stuff. And we'll get into a little bit of that. I'll just cover the top of the waves of each little vignette that I do. But that's more in between when we're keying the data and printing out the results. Printing out, yes. We're using printouts. It's really, they're sitting over there. I forgot to bring them over to my table. But we'll get it. We'll go over get them. That's what we're going to do. Okay, a positive shared experience. More Business Products said, I would like to recommend this simulation to any company who wants their employees to understand merchandising and media selection. And, it revolves around mailing lists because that's kind of fun and simple, but it's not really just that. It's broader than just picking lists. It's about the idea that we've got to figure out how to get new customers, because if you don't, the customer file automatically goes a little bit down the drain. If you remember my bathtub model, it's exactly that. So Dan Richards was a great friend. Your session was quite successful. Our people were pleased and enthused. I wish I could find more programs of a similar nature that would help teach marketing people. That's key. I was trying to get to Andrew. I got his card here, Andrew. And he did a great presentation at NAMOA. Andrew from Wayfair. That's a company I really am. The first year they presented, when they first started the catalog, it was a little comical because they made some mistakes and they admitted them, which is great. But I turned to somebody at the table and said, they could have called anybody in this room and gotten help. The dot-commers really are starting to realize that a catalog makes a lot of sense, that it's part of a sustainable model, right? But how do you teach cataloging? Hire an old guy with a beard, right? Well, this is a way to do it. This is a way. Another big cataloger not far from here said that they hire a lot of interns and they just don't know what to do with them to sort of get them the catalog culture. It's like, let's start making Model Ts. They think we're completely irrelevant, but I had another cataloger, long time cataloger, call me up this week and said, all the consultants are saying we need to get away from the catalog, but my customers keep saying we want the catalog. Yeah, gee, what a surprise. And I can tell you, and I can send you article after article after article, that millennials want catalogs. They like catalogs. They've had it with this. They've been in this for, their whole life. Since they were 8 years old, they've had their smartphone and their video and all that stuff. But they're rediscovering books. More books are selling now than ever before. My book is available in paperback now. Second edition. Go on. I better go on. I'm digressing again. Okay, the fact that our circulation people edged out the other teams proves that the central logic of the game is sound. I got in touch with Jill Palamountain, who was head of circulation at the time, and her team won, and it was great. They came from behind to win, and they kind of figured out, I'll say they figured out the game, but it was more like they figured out that they needed to think like they would normally think. They needed to run this like they would run their circulation department. And that's pretty profound. If Land's End, you can say, well, Land's End helped with it. But it's not about Land's End. And you'll see that when we get to the actual screenshots. It's a lot more interesting than that. It's a lot more universal. The people in England thought it was great. So how does it help your company? Well, it is team building. It's fun. And I was also told that afterwards, when the finance people were trying to understand why marketing seems to waste so much money mailing these catalogs that nobody looks at because they only get a 1 or 2% response, um, they start to get it. They start to get that if we don't keep pushing somehow, then it doesn't have to be mailing lists, doesn't have to be. Although I just helped a retailer get into the mail, and over the last few years, and they're now finally acquiring customers and prospecting at above break even, which is pretty cool, really cool. Okay, so and they had a huge social media thing and huge web presence, and um, we found out that we could do some mailers around stores that really did work. So it is team building, but it's got a purpose. And because it can be cross departmental. We did it with senior management at Land's End. We did it with senior management at Caldwell. We did it with senior management at Deluxe. And it helps the other departments understand that marketing is not just winging it, and it's disciplined and it's difficult. This game is very simple. Anybody can play it. It's very difficult. It's simple, but it's difficult. I tried winging it the last couple months when we were building it again, and it is hard. So it's hard to make money. It's not hard to play. It's really easy to play. It's like racquetball. It's like hitting the broadside of a barn, racquetball. But I got to tournament level, and it gets a lot harder. And when you get to play with better people, you won't even know where the ball went. A good game should be like that. Good game should be easy to understand and challenging to play. So the senior managers that we've talked with have said it's better than a corporate retreat. The mid-level management learns a lot more about what marketing and merchandising do. And it's not just about, I've talked mostly about the list, but there's a whole lot of logic and equations and things in the background looking at what merchandise you're picking. And I think it'd be great for new people and interns even, because first of all, it teaches I say direct marketing, but the reason I'm such a fan of direct marketing is because I worked at a distributing company and I understood margin and markup and 10 10 5 and all that stuff. And I didn't understand the way through time you need to acquire customers. So direct marketing is such a great template to learn about ongoing business. It's just a great place to start. And that's why I think it'd be great for interns as well as the CEO. So, some of the things we cover, it's built around a creative hardware store, Moe's Hardware, and Moe's had a heart attack, and you're in charge. There's a little more to the backstory than that, but it's something like that, and it's very limited data, because Moe kind of ran it out of the back of the store, and he enjoyed it, but that's kind of what it's about. Here's Moe's Hardware store. It's really hard to find a hardware store named Moe's Good Hardware. I'm a Photoshop guy, I admit it. And here's Moe in the back. In the back with his excellent inventory and his excellent inventory management system. So we're taking that over, and we're gonna take it into the 20th century. So we cover direct marketing, and I actually do a little presentation about direct marketing. What is direct marketing? What are lists? What is media selection about? And it's about testing, and it's about what works, trying a lot of stuff, trying broadly, and figuring out on an individual list basis, but on a broader basis, what's going on, what are your customers like, It's about merchandising, and I talk about that. And I do get into we actually judge the game on cumulative net profit, and we value the company when you finish. So it's not just about cost of goods, and it's not just about even lifetime value. It's about what's your company going to be worth after 5 years. And you talk about moving from attendance to engagement to investment. This is this is probably the best thing you'll ever find about that. I kind of patterned it on the old game called Lemonade Stand, and it has you buy lemons and buy water or buy sugar and cups and price the lemonade depending on the weather. If it's really hot, you can price it higher, and it's really good. I used to play it with my kids, but it doesn't teach you about lifetime value, and it doesn't teach you about valuation. So we get into a lot of stuff that can help your customer, your company, your people figure out what's really going on. So in direct marketing, we're going to talk about data and testing. If you followed me at all, you've seen that data is not strategic almost ever. Almost never is it strategic. Because strategic is about the future. Strategy is about the future, right? What happens if we go into this? What if we built this? What if we cut our prices 10%? What if we had lots of specials? What if we never have a special again? How can we change our branding? How can we do this? How can we do that? That's what strategy is. Okay, where do we go next? And data is about history. Data is like accounting, except a mishmash of data. A random accumulation of stuff not intended for what you're trying to do with it. People wonder why their data doesn't seem to be relevant to the question. It's because their data isn't relevant to the question. The data is history, and strategy is future. So, if you want strategic data, there's no such thing. It's an oxymoron. But if you want hypothetical data, if you want future data, then you have to create the data that you want to understand. And that's the power of direct marketing. And that's what we'll be talking about at NAMOA. So I hope you go to NAMOA and hear the talk, because it'll stretch your head, I hope. But anyway, we talk about how you want to test wide at the beginning. I think in most startups, people don't. People have this concept of this is what our customer is. Our customer is this over here in this division, so it's going to be the same in this division. It's often the case that it isn't. It's totally different. And you have to start big enough. You have to test enough to know what's going on. And we'll also talk about basic direct marketing math in the direct marketing section. It's not too hard, but it's just something. Okay, and here's what it looks like. Remember I told you it's kind of old school? It is old school, okay? And for example, here's the number of pages. We start with 8 pages. I know you say, well, that's not a real catalog. Well, you saw Moe's store. I mean, it wasn't much of a store. And so, and then what we do is we have you pick lists, and we have you understand that lists are groups of people, that that can be compiled lists which have the same geodemographics, or there can be controlled lists like subscribers to Golf Magazine, or there can be response lists, Lands' End buyers, or whatever. Lands' End only does reciprocal. I'm not sure if I put Lands' End in or not. I was having trouble getting a data card, so I may not have put them back in. They were in the old version, which is what I'm going to show you now because I had the screen captures. But that, so we talk about those different kinds of perspectives, and those are universal. Those are, whether you're in social media, or you're doing affinity, or you're doing Facebook group affiliation, that's like controlled, that's their interests, or you can on Facebook use geodemographics. this geography. There's all kinds of stuff you can do on Facebook. It's pretty amazing. But it's in the same vein. They didn't invent it. They took it from what we've been doing for the last 100 years. Okay? Here we go. So, and I don't know if you can read this. This is a little bit small. I admit. That's okay. I didn't really mean for you to read it. But we have a bunch of lists, and these are the old data cards. But we updated all new data cards, all up to the date, up to the minute. So you have good, accurate counts, and you get to pick names. So if you look down here, we've got the buyer file and the prospect file, and over here is the names that we have selected in this particular case. And then I ran the thing, but well, you can't run it yet. Then you have to pick merchandise. And you get 8 pages, but most of the catalogers, the legacy catalogers, started with key product ideas. They found some things that were unique and went with those. Sharper Image started with the runner's watch, right? JCPenney started with a railroad watch. It's interesting. LL Bean started with a waterproof boot. So, product is important. Some say nothing comes before merchandise, and it's really especially important now that Amazon is big, and so we'll talk a little bit about that, about Amazon and their uniqueness and their willingness to knock off your best product if they may or may not. It's just a rumor. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I also have some somewhat humorous selection methods. For example, there's the president's method, where the president's enthusiasm is greater than the merchandising department's resistance, or something like that. I forget. And that's always good for a laugh, because, the president usually does come along with some pet products. And it's like Ray Kroc didn't want the Filet-O-Fish. It was a Catholic McDonald's owner, franchisee in Ohio, who said, there's nothing for Lent here at McDonald's. So he invented the Filet-O-Fish, and Ray didn't think it would work. And Ray had him test against, I forget, a taco or something. Whatever it was, it's no longer memorable. But the Filet-O-Fish is still here. So, sometimes the president has some ideas that sometimes work, and a lot of times they don't. So anyway, we have some crazy products. We have a whole list of products. We have many, many products. I don't know what there are, 150 products or something to choose from. This is the Coca-Cola Bank, and this is the electric nose hair trimmer. And this is the bug vacuum. And a lot of it is based on Mo's affinity for gadgets, and so it's got some. But, as I'll show you here in a second, we also, you can pick whatever you like. And so over here we've got the Australian shirt, the black velvet dress, $230 for the black velvet dress. And what's this here? The home laser show, or the home tanning spa, or whatever. The fact is, this is what's really cool. The fact is, I've had teams win the entire, best net worth, going to low-end gadgets, going to high-end, sort of a Sharper Image kind of a thinking, going to women's apparel, going to business. Okay? I've had teams win in all directions, which means that this thing is well built. So if you're business to business and you think, well, this is just consumer, no, you can win it with a business to business strategy. But you got to kind of decide what you want to do. You're going to be able to take Mo about wherever you want to go, right? And I can tell you that it's a lot of fun trying to decide. And then the reporting. And the reporting, this is actually a boiled down reporting for the screens, but what you see is that you've got your mailing, your order sales, you've got your gross margin, net profit, and net profit per thousand. And so on this particular one, and this was just winging it last night, making screenshots, all the rented lists lost money, but not all lost a lot of money. And the buyer file made the most money, and I think it netted out at about $100 profit per thousand, which isn't too bad. dollar per book. Okay, and we mailed 600,000 or something books. And here's the merchandise, and we've got contribution per page part. We talk about page parts. We talk about square inch analysis. So it's foundational. We talk about margin. See here we have assign a space expense. So we have a merchandise contribution and then a contribution per page part so that we normalize it. But we will talk about that. And, you know, it's just, you need to get in their heads that if we promote one product on a special email and we spend $30,000 on that, or we put it on the front page of our website, that cost should be allocated toward that item. You know, so you can make the catalog be the foundation. But when you do a special promotion, if you did a solo mailer in the old days, that's the kind of thing we would do, or a telemarketing, you know, add-on, where we'd say this week's special is. Whatever you do, you really should tie back to the promotional cost, so that you remember, because you'll forget. You remember that item had an extra boost, and you got to associate that cost with that item, or else it looks like it's a big hit. We also have little tricks in there like hot products. You know, we've all had a product that was really hot at the moment, and then the next season came around and we couldn't get rid of them. And so, you know, this is one of these. We play this year by year, so that if you have one really, really great product that doesn't seem to fit, it may throw you off. It may take you in a direction that you didn't mean to go. And that happens. I've seen that happen a lot in catalogers, where they go in a whole different direction, and just based on a very, very short-term perspective. So you got to be careful of that, even in the game, because that's the real world. Yes, it is. Okay, and then we got the math behind your brand, and we're going to talk about lifetime value and multi-channel marketing. So we cover a lot of stuff here. We really do. So what's the deal? How long have I gone? Just under an hour, so we're doing really good. What's the deal? Well, back in 1989, with Catalog Age, I actually looked this up, we charged $675 per person. Okay, just for the days that this thing went. The whole thing was I don't know, $1,500 or something. So if we took today's money, it would be $1,400. We can do, right now we're set up for about 25 people. It would be, I would say, a minimum in your company would be you want at least a dozen, at least. And a company, I talked with a company yesterday that works with a lot of catalogers, and they said, well, this work when they just come in to visit, because we have regular visits. And I said, well, what I would do is I would take your team, the sales team and the customer service team, and the data guys and all that stuff that are working with them all the time, and I'd put them all in a room together. So you get a dozen people. You get a couple of client people. You get a couple of your support people, or a couple of your sales people, or bring a couple of your management people in. Just don't shut down the company for the day, but just to make it a team building thing with the client would be great. So that would be, figure a dozen minimum. I'd invite more because somebody will have some conflict. So you'd invite maybe 20 people, and we'd be set up for that really, really well. We can go bigger. We just actually bought 5 little laptops, which I had one at the office, but the office has no internet, as far as I know still. And so what we're going to do, that would be 56 grand. I doubt if, it's quite worth that. We're starting at a $10,000 per session. And that's an 80% discount of what we would have charged in 1989. It seems to me I charged 7 even then. So we're giving you a great discount today. If you're really interested, we'll give you a week for the special introductory price at least. I want to give a deal because I want to get this out there. I want to have it done. I'm talking to some other organizations about co-marketing it, and so, but right now I'm not. So I want to get it going, and I'm committed to direct marketing. I love catalogs. There's an article a long time ago why I love catalogs so much, and I tell people it started in 1939 when my father bought a fly rod, a Courtney Riley Cooper fly rod, and I actually found the catalog that he bought from. I found a picture of it, and it's in the catalog simulation slides, but I didn't bring it over. But my father was sold on catalogs from when he was a senior in high school, and my house was a catalog house. We ordered from the Sunset House. We loved when it came. We ordered the special water-filled highball balls that would chill your drink without diluting it until the FDA found out that the balls got full of bacteria, and if your drink wasn't stiff enough, it might kill you. So I have a personal love for catalogs. I always have. It's fascinating to me when we launch one, that you'd mail to the winds, and nothing happens for a couple of days, maybe a week, maybe a little more. I think catalogers have an innate faith component that's really great. So I want to get your people excited about marketing, about making it work, about being sustainable, about being invested. That's what my mission is. Now, I've got a webinar special. You always should have a webinar special. And I would say the first 3 companies to sign up to give me the $3,000 deposit. I have a PayPal button built for this, but I don't have to send you to it today. What I'll do is come in for a half-day session the day before, and we'll talk about your people. We'll talk about what you're trying to achieve. We'll talk about where you're trying to go as a company, and I will tailor the presentations and the entire session to fit your company, to fit where you want to go with it, which makes the game even more effective. The truth is that this isn't, it's too hard almost to play just by yourself. It's too hard for me to play. I showed you really the simple part. The first 2 years are really simple. At the 3rd year, you start having to deal with repeat mailing, and you have to start dealing with inventory, carrying cost, and liquidation, and you and you set the price and the margin, and it gets a lot harder. It gets crazy hard. That's why I said we use a printer. Yes, we bought an old dot matrix printer because that's the way the game worked, and it's portable. And but you have to have a piece of paper. Almost, you can't. It's which is good, It shows people what it was like to try to noodle this into the future. And when I started back in the 80s, I did a seminar for the DMA, and I asked to use a computer. And they said, why would you need a computer for a presentation? We have slide projectors. And I said, well, I want to do it interactive. It wasn't this, but it was something like this. It was a precursor. And they said, the Hilton on the Avenue of Americas, I mean, big time Hilton, downtown New York City, said, well, we've never had anybody do that. So as far as I know, I was the first one to use a computer as a slide projector, but also as an interactive presenter. And so we got 30 or 40 people coming to my session, and big companies. LL Bean was there, More Business Products was there, a bunch of big companies. And I said, well, this is just to share what I'm doing with computers and marketing. And I said, how many people use computers in marketing? And no hands went up. I said, how many people have a computer in their marketing department? And 2 out of the 30 raised their hands. So I've seen a lot of changes, but I still have people coming up to me saying, those spreadsheets that you built, I use those for. So I had somebody say, I'm still using that concept. I've changed it a little bit, but I'm still using your concept because these fundamental numbers don't change. You know, Amazon pitched that it's all changed, it's all different. You don't have to make them any money. Yes, you do, and they do. Now, maybe you didn't when they got started, but the internet is littered with the .com remnants of people who didn't know the fundamentals, and this is what you learn. So I'll tack on an extra visit for you to come, and I may bring Ted along, who's my really smart computer guy, who's at the office trying to figure the internet out. So I want to thank you for hanging on to the. I'm John Miglautsch for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing.